Kristi, great to speak to you. Thank you for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with me. I know you've got a busy day today, so I appreciate you, carving out a bit of time for us. Let me start with something that you said to me previously. You said having children has made you less risk averse. You're bolder as an entrepreneur now that you've got kids compared to the way you were before. I mean, most people would say the opposite. Why is that the case? I mean, just tell us about why that's the case.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here. Well, I would say the same 2 years ago, it would make me less bolder. Let me give you a little bit of context on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was working on this strategy where we were looking at how do we encourage more women to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And for that, I sat down with 80 female business owners from the UK. And the main insight that came out of that was there is just never the right time for a woman to, start a startup or open a business. And I remember I really didn't like this finding. Um, but at the same time, it deeply resonated with me. Because if you look at my career path, I think quite a couple of women will connect to this. I invested heavily in my education. My parents invested heavily in education. I got best grades. I got to my master's. I finished my master's. I'm thinking I have this great problem I want to solve, but I don't have much experience. Let me first get experience and then come back to it, right? So I get employed at McKinsey, at the large, the global consultancy. I stay there for 2 years, get experience, and then open my own business. Then I stay for 9 years. But the whole time thinking the next thing I do, I open my business. So I invested all of the decisions that I did within McKinsey was focused on getting the experience
Yeah.
to then open my own business. So I connected with the community that was building new ventures for large corporates. So I established six startups within big companies. And I really learned A to Z, everything from finding the product market fit, knowing who you need to employ to scale fast, how to get investment, how to convince people this is a good idea to invest in. And as I feel like now I have the knowledge, I get pregnant. And I'm thinking, that's it. That's the end of my entrepreneurial dream. Just forget about it. Then my daughter is born. And three things shifted that I didn't expect, right? That made me bolder. One, the priorities just become so clear. The non-negotiables are just so clear, like never before. Secondly, I took the full year off for maternity leave. So I had time to reflect. I had time to be creative. I had time to read and, listen to things that otherwise I wouldn't be exposed to. And then thirdly, well, it just puts everything into perspective once you put
Yeah.
a human out
Yeah.
of your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
things don't feel as hard as they used to before, right? And so detrimental. And when it comes to priorities, it became very evident to me that there are three things that I need to keep in mind when I'm making the new career decision, which is one, I want to be able to raise my daughter,
Mm.
which means a good night kiss at the end of the long work day, that won't work. Either I involve her more in what I'm doing and I'm able to do that, or I work less. Something needs to change there. I need more flexibility there. Secondly, I want to do something that she is proud of what I'm doing, and I can explain her clearly why this is something good, what I'm doing, and why I'm spending time on that. And then lastly, I had to move country because I needed a village to raise a child. And all of this kind of got me to the decision, it's time. These are just the right reasons to now open my company and focus on the problem I wanna solve.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about priorities. and working out what your priorities are, because I think that's a really important thing for entrepreneurs to do. You've got to know what you're going to do and not do, and that's quite it can be quite difficult things to work out sometimes. Let me ask you about something else that came up. You one of the things you talk about in relation to your business is that we might be, well, that's probably you rather than me because I'm, twice your age, but you're the last generation that may not, or the first generation that may not leave stuff that's of value to their kids. I thought that was a really interesting idea as it relates to your business. I mean, just tell us a bit about your business and tell us a bit about why that matters, because I think that relates to the thing about being a parent, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So if I look at different generations, right? My grandmother, this was like post-war generation, and there were still most of the furniture they got was from the local craftsmen, right?
Yeah.
There was, today we call it supply chain. It was
Yep.
very transparent supply chain, right? It was from the local forest, from the local craftsmen, and they bought furniture and stuff once, right? Then we have the generation of my parents, where consumerism, I'm from Slovenia, and that time we joined the West in a way, right? So everything from the West comes in, and you can get so much more, right? So my mom keeps buying for us, even though they didn't have sometimes money to buy. They buy because it's a thing you do, right? The new stuff is better than. I always tell this story, right? We used my grandmother made this the best homemade marmalade, right?
Right.
And then when the West opens, my mom starts buying jam from supermarket from I don't know, I don't even know where that marmalade was made, but it really wasn't good. It was very artificial, but it was what they did, right? And
Yeah.
now we're coming back to again eating my grandmother's marmalade because we're realizing how much more nutritious and better it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
anyway, that shift happens. And then my generation comes in, and we are now raised with all of this stuff, right? And we see our parents managing all of the waste. Like everyone has so much stuff, and they store it. They don't know where to store it, and stuff that you buy becomes an issue. It becomes waste that you need to manage, right? It's storage you need to manage, and it shouldn't be this way. Um, so the idea then for the business actually came from me and my husband buying a flat and starting to furbish our own home. And we bought a furbished home, except there was dining table missing. And we said we just want to buy a good dining table. We buy once, and it's gonna stay there forever. It's such a common thing everyone does once or twice in their life, right? But it was impossible to find. We
All
knew
right.
we cannot go to IKEA. We knew that we could go to like design brands, but there you don't know if you're paying the premium for the brand or for the quality. And then you find all of these brands that say, we have good quality stuff, sustainable, etc. But then you see they source the wood from New Zealand, manufacture it in China, and then sell it in Europe. Don't tell me that's sustainable. So that for me became the core problem I wanted to solve, because that just shouldn't happen. I
Yeah.
mean, we have amazing makers and like so much great resources and materials in Europe. Why do we need to go so far to get just a good to get a good table? And that is where we wanted to position the keepers, right? That's the problem we wanted to solve. The vision we have is really we want to imagine a world where we make and keep what truly matters.
Right.
And there are on purpose two parts of this vision. One is on the making, which is it all starts with making only the things that we want to pass down, right? Coming back to passing it down, not stuff that will go to waste. So for us, we really want to establish ourselves as an online shop, as a go-to place where you buy only things that will last. And we have a very rigorous framework how we select makers and how we select products. So we guarantee they're going to last, but also they're local. They're all made in Europe. And then there's a second part, which is the keeping part, which is very connected to behavioral change, right? So we really want to educate people to be able to actually recognize the quality, because as we talked about my generation, this is the IKEA generation, right? We are very distant from how things are made, and we don't have knowledge anymore to recognize what's good quality and what's not, what's going to last and what will not. So we need to bring that knowledge back and then educate people how they can maintain things, so can they stay for longer, as well as offer services, right? So the next step for us is not just offering products that are going to last, but also offering the full suite of services that help you choose what's right for your home and then maintain it, repair it, or resell it in the future.
I mean, it's a really interesting concept. I totally get it, but it's going counter to the kind of current trend, isn't it? I mean, how do you feel about, because you're really challenging the status quo. You're really saying there's going to be a different way to do that. I mean, how do you feel about the process of doing that? I mean, it must be hard.
Well, we're traditional rebellions,
Right. Okay.
rebels, right? Aren't we? Because we're in a way we're bringing things from the past, but in a completely new way. Um, how is it difficult? Well, I would say the key here is to really reach the niche that has already made that mindset shift, right?
Mm.
And we can think, I always think as a similar example is food, right? Um, there's so much in stores that says this is sustainable, this is natural, this is whatever ecological, right? But you have a niche of people that realized the most sustainable, the most healthy choice I can make is buy local and buy seasonal. And those will go to farmers markets, right? And we believe there is the same niche that has done already this mindset shift also when it comes to furbishing their homes, right? And they know the best decision they can make is buy local, right? And buy great quality, right? Buy something that will last. And something that we will be proud of, right? Because we know we're not just selling furniture. When you buy a table or a chair or a couch or even something like a vase, um, you're not, this is such an important decision you're making, right? You're really choosing something to um, be with you for a long time. So you're not just buying furniture, you're buying really a story behind, right? How it's made, how it fits with your values. And with time, this table becomes full of memories, right? Full of scratches that remind you of your children, right? How they learned
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
eat and etc.
Yeah.
So we really want to then stay with our customers for the long run rather than just sell once and then say
And is the business, I mean, it sounds to me that the business is partly about selling great products that people will keep and maintain. It seems to me there's something in there that is about re-educating customers or helping customers learn about a different way of doing things. I mean, is that partly, is this partly, if you like, a campaign to change
yes.
people's mindsets?
Yeah, that's the next step. So I think as to your point, to your question before, we're starting with people that already are educated, let's put it that way, right? That
Yeah.
are already searching for more sustainable, more local,
Yeah.
more better quality options, while kind of creating a new audience by educating them, right? Because um, yeah, they will need additional data to then make a purchase decision.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this already now. We're constantly actually, since we launched the online store, we are constantly learning how people are kind of navigating through the website. And we're trying now to optimize how do we ease that decision? How do we bring that education to the purchase journey rather than purely marketing, right? So when you decide that you need a gift for a wedding, for someone's home, or like I said, a table, that we give you the right information the right time, so you feel very confident and proud of your decision, and you know that this is yeah, this is going to stay with you, and you have enough proof
Yeah.
for yourself to make that purchase.
Yeah. Well, one of the other interesting things about the modern, the moment that we're in now is that people have, I mean, are building businesses in, if you like, the age of social media, which is totally different to when I started out 40 years ago. I mean, nobody knew what you were doing 40 years ago. Now everybody knows what you're doing because it's all on social media, isn't it? I mean, whatever the specific platform is. I mean, what's your thoughts on that process? Because you're going to have people that, as it were, not necessarily don't approve of what you're doing, but people that see what you're doing as very niche. I mean, how do you feel about building a business in this age when you're constantly under scrutiny? I mean, your people could go and say anything to anybody, customers could say anything about you, and it's all visible, isn't it, if you like? I mean, what's your thoughts on business building in this kind of environment?
Um, Two thoughts that come to my mind, right? First one is we actually want to play within niche, right? We don't want to be good for everyone. That's a very conscious decision we made from the beginning, right? So that already helps us a little bit when it comes to prioritization and just sleeping at night. um, when it comes then to constant visibility and feedback, right? Um, I think what's very interesting, what I'm recognizing with myself, moving from consulting to now being the founder, is before the customer feedback, it was easier to take a step back
Mm.
and evaluate it. What do we now do next? What do we care about? What do we prioritize? What we don't? Once you're a founder, everything feels very personal,
Yeah.
if you want it or not, and not personal in a way that you feel offended, right? If you get like negative feedback or something like this, it's more about you just want to solve everything at the same time. And coming back to our conversation about the priorities, I think here
Mm.
being ruthless on taking the step back and prioritizing is even more important. So you don't get stuck on just like responding versus leading the change, right? Because as you said it yourself, we're a little bit going against the system.
Mm.
So of course, the system is going to say we should change. Let's just go back to what others are doing, especially on social media. Like, we need, we need to sell, but at the same time, we also want to take a different approach to marketing, to communication, and so on. And we need to stay truth to themselves and rather search for our niche and our community, rather than just respond to
Mm.
what the market is saying, which lots of that feedback, if you get any negative feedback, is mostly from the audience that is actually not your target
Yeah,
segment.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the other interesting thing about building a business is that, of course, we're all global now.
Mm,
I mean, the great thing about social media means that you can build a completely global business from anywhere.
yeah.
The downside is that you're then competing in a global market. You mentioned a second ago that you wanted to approach marketing differently. I mean, what did you mean by that? What's going to be different about the way you market your business?
Yeah, a couple of things. So one is we want to pay respect to the makers that spend
Right.
so much time and knowledge on really creating, like really crafting great quality.
Yeah.
We want to pay respect to that work with our great design and content. So one is we're actually currently in discussions on how we minimize actually the use of AI, for example, for content development, and how we really
Right.
create a good quality, and really, really think what's relevant for people, and how do we get the right balance between people finding us, right? We still need to optimize the SEO, but still being truth to our values, right? So not just being out there, but really creating thoughtful and useful content.
Yeah.
That's one. Secondly, is we are testing less saturated channels. Of course, we need to be on Instagram, right? This is where people are searching for
Yeah.
inspiration. We're not saying we're not doing that, but we are also testing other channels like how about print? How about people learning about us in boutique hotels and restaurants where they
Right.
actually, their minds are freed from all the clutter and of information and yeah, all the information pollution,
And
right? What
are those approaches working? Because they're quite different to what a lot of other people would be doing. I mean, people using leaflets, for example, most people wouldn't do that now, would they? I mean, it's completely the opposite. I
Yes.
mean, are those things working for you? Is
So
promoting it in posh hotels is that do you see that as the way forward? Is that
that is a test that we're currently
right?
testing this. We're seeing people scanning. We're getting quite a good percentage on like scans of the QR codes. But as you know, we recently launched, we are still analyzing the conversion rate
Yeah,
and then seeing how if that is converting. But we're running tests that maybe otherwise other companies wouldn't. We want to see if we can get attention actually where it's less saturated rather than just compete on visibility where everyone else is.
yeah, yeah. No, and I think there's a definite logic to that. Let me ask you about you're building quite an unusual business now, and that's not meant as a criticism. I mean, I think some of the most exciting businesses are very different to the other stuff that's around. I mean, one of my favorites is Patagonia, for example, which is
Mm,
very different. One of the interesting things, though, is how you get the right people on board. How you get the right people on the bus. I mean, what's been your experience of bringing people together to help move the business forward?
yeah. I think it comes back to having very clear stand, very clear values, and very clear vision. Um, and if you have that, I think you can get whoever, right? Of course, I also have a very good network from my past, right? So the team around me they're incredible experts in their field uh, that got pulled in by the vision, right? What we're trying to create, and they really want to contribute. Going forwards as we grow, where we also want to stand out is attract people not just by our vision, but also our not just our product vision, but also our business vision, which is can we create a sustainable business that will allow people to have a good balance between work and life. And what does that mean? I don't know if you know, but I'm obsessed with Basecamp founders, and they have a very, very common sense mindset when it comes to balancing business with life, which is they work 8 hours, right? The traditional model. But within those 8 hours, they're ruthless when it comes to prioritization, right? Where they're going to put their eggs in. Um, and this is also where I want to get really good at, and the way also how I want to attract the talent, right? Getting the best talent that is a little bit burned out and wants to really create an excellent product while having a good life. So no regrets on their personal life.
Yeah. And do you expect to recruit people purely nearby in Slovenia, or do you think you're going to recruit and some people more remote? I mean, will they work more remotely? I mean, how do you think those things? How are you going to balance those things?
Yeah, I think at the moment, we're going for remote, right? So we can really reach the best talent. Plus, because we are currently very focused on the full Europe in terms of the makers and in terms of the customers, I think also having people from around Europe will benefit us because we also then get different perspectives um, and experiences.
Sure. And tell me, why is the sustainability thing so important to you? I mean, what is it about that matters? Is it the fact that we're not going to leave the way we're going, we're not going to leave a great planet to our kids 20, 30 years down the track? I mean, is that what's inspiring it? I mean, what's driving you around this sustainability thing?
Yes, it's for sure for for the next generation. It's pretty scary, right? But also, I come from a village of 800 people, and then I lived in London for 12, um, for 12 years, and what I realized was in London, sustainability is very, it's a concept, it's an idea.
Mm.
Sustainability or just nature, right? When you're in a village close to the nature, it's reality.
Mm.
And when I lost my grandfather who had a vineyard and an orchard, my family and we had to learn a little bit how to take care of the trees, of the soil. And it's hard particularly because the climate change has changed so much.
Yeah.
And you need to take care of the nature completely differently and live with nature. And sustainability for me, it's very real, right? It's it's not just a concept that we it's trending. For me, it's really how do we live better with nature for the next generation? Because otherwise, I mean, what does that tell about us if we
Yeah.
don't do something about it?
Yeah.
I want my daughter to eat the best apples, right, from the trees, and I want her to inherit from me valuable valuables, not waste. And currently, if I don't change something about my consumption, she will, the only thing she inherits is waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is rather depressing, isn't it, really? One of the things I've been reading up around is this idea of regenerative businesses, which is, if you like, the next step on beyond sustainability. I mean, sustainability is about reducing the damage down to zero. Regeneration is actually about saying we can enhance biodiversity. We can, what's your take on that, given that you're making lots of physical products?
Yes, I love this question. It comes back to a couple of things, right? So one, we only, as I said, we only present makers that use um, local materials and usually use slower production techniques, right? That maybe take longer, but they're consuming less energy, right?
Mm.
And what I love, especially around the local part, is you can get whatever certificates you want. But if the carpenter is using the wood from the local forest, they're going to be very careful about how many trees they cut down, because then otherwise their kids will not be able to run around those forests, right? So that closeness actually makes them much more conscious in how they're using the material, right?
Mm.
Material, and use the environment, right? So their forest will be much healthier um, in general, right? And then there is also the element of um, thinking about the long, it's not just about the production of the product, but it's also what happens after, right? And this is all about repair, maintenance, but also if you don't want it, and if we are really promising this is a keeper, right? We want to make sure that you can also resell it, because we know it's still valuable object, right? So we are then also investing in that long-term relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And just tell me about the customers. I mean, what does a good customer look like to you? I mean, do you have a sense of that yet?
A good customer. I mean, first of all, we need to be good for the customers, not the customers good to us. But anyway, for us, we're targeting definitely currently the premium segment,
Mm.
because there is a premium price paid if you want something that is handmade, that is made slower, and that is made to last. That's just the trade-off, right? And often there is also a bigger story around it. You're also investing in protecting the heritage. We have like UNESCO wood carving, for example, from one maker, etc. So you're um, investing in that. Um, so it's the premium segment and is a segment that recognizes that wants to make just more thoughtful and sustainable decisions. I think that's currently the target, and we are currently looking at the European market just because we want to be more, if we really want to advertise ourselves as local, we should sell to the local community. However, we know that there's also a market in US, right? That is very much interested in made in Europe furniture and decor. We will see, right? We still need to be reasonable when it comes to business decisions, right? We want to stick to our values, but at the same time, there's also business reality. We'll see if that at some point becomes actually also an option for us. But currently, we're looking at premium segment in Europe that wants to make more thoughtful choices when
Yeah.
it comes to their
Yeah,
home
people,
items.
people. I guess it's people with values that align to yours, really, isn't it?
Oh
People
yeah,
care about this.
definitely.
Let me ask you about the different cultures. I mean, you're in Europe at the moment. I mean, but for, doing business in Ljubljana is probably a little bit different to doing business in Paris. I mean, what's your take on how you adjust or adapt or accommodate those kind of local, nuances? I mean, have you got a sense of that?
Um, Funny you ask this because we actually just learned from a language failure at the moment. So the minimum is the language, right? Europe is quite
Yeah.
specific on languages when it comes to localizing our offer to different European markets. Um, and as we are a small team, we implemented this AI translation solution.
Mhm.
And once we launched, of course, there wasn't enough time to go through all the text. We realized it was a huge failure. We know that AI is amazing with large languages, but when it comes to small languages, because we translate it in German, but also in Slovenian. In Slovenian, it's 2 million people, right? Database of chats. And it was just horrible. It looks like it used a data set from all the Slavic languages, meaning it translated things like tables into chairs. So it wasn't just bad translation; it was just nonsense.
Right.
So we had to trash that away as soon as possible. Um, so we are currently at the moment discussing what's our next step. We are currently taking the more universal approach, um, kind of with the hypothesis that the European niche that I just described would speak the same language in terms of, their values and why they make their purchase decisions. But we know that we will need to slowly start localizing it to just get our marketing more effective, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean that's always tricky in places like Europe because there's so many different languages, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, the great thing about America is that you've got English and you've got Hispanic. I mean,
yeah,
it's a bit easier over there for the reasons
yeah.
we just talked about. Let me ask you about the journey that you've been on with the business. I mean, I want to ask you about what you've learned in a second, but when you look back on the journey, the way that you've developed the business from the idea that you started with to where you're at now, I mean, were there particular points on that journey when you came to a fork in the road and said, "Do I do this or do I do that?" I mean, and were any of those of real significance? And how did you make those decisions?
Mhm. Mm, I think the main one is when you go from having a vision and a product roadmap and all of these concepts you want to test to saying this is the date when you want to launch.
Right.
And what I love about that was the priorities become very clear because you get from all of these ideas what you want to do to, well, the customer just needs to be able to purchase this item, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was definitely a big learning experience on like I wish we would say actually let's launch earlier because I think then that prioritization of the basic features would be much easier, right?
Yeah.
Because you just go like, if you want someone to buy, this is what we need to do,
Yeah.
versus kind of trying to do two things at the same time. So already implementing some more advanced or value add features versus just like, the baseline buying experience kind of. So that was definitely a big learning. But now that we have it, I'm very excited to come back to now our so-called discovery backlog, where we then slowly implement more distinctive features for our platform.
Yeah. And I guess to come back to the thing we were just talking about, as you go into more and more different territories, you'll have to adjust for those, won't you?
Oh, for sure.
Let me ask you about your journey. I mean, when you look back on the journey that you've been on, I mean, what would you say are the most important things that you've learnt along the way?
Mm. Um, well, business is all about people. I think that's the main one. Um, the main learning is to be very thoughtful the, about setting up the team around you.
Mm.
And I'm very glad I had the McKinsey experience because at McKinsey you constantly go from one project to the other, and you need to be very adaptable. You need to adapt quickly to different teams. But with that, you get also a very good experience of who you work with well and who you don't,
Mm.
and what is almost the secret sauce, how to set up the right team, right? And I think around this, the key learnings were, I think if you want to get a really good team, which I think is the key for successful business, is one, you need to be very self-reflective, as I said, right? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? But also what are values that are non-negotiable for me with people that I work with. And once you have that very clear in your head, then you need to look for people that complement you,
Mm.
right? Rather than people that sound like you and you like it because they say things in the same way as you do. If you're less structured, search for someone that is more structured.
I mean, it's very interesting you say that because most people do the opposite, don't they? I mean, what you see is people recruit in their own image,
Yes,
and then they
yes.
run into problems.
Exactly, exactly. So, and I think at McKinsey, what's really good because you learn it's not just about looking for people with complementary skill set, but also personality, right? So you're very aware, again, coming back, right? What, as a personality, what you're really good at, right? So maybe you're less structured, but that means that maybe when it comes to last minute things, you're not that stressed because you're very
Yeah.
flexible, right? And you can very quickly adapt. But when it comes to planning, for a specific event, having someone that is more structured is very valuable, right? So having that is really the key, and then I think the third learning is just the daily care, right? Once you have a team, um, it's about clear communication, especially when you're working in remote setup, clear team norms, clear ownership, right? And then the most important thing that I guess the McKinsey school is feedback, feedback, feedback. That's something that really became such a important part of my daily work life, right? So
And do you
positive
have
and negative feedback with
I
with
mean,
the team.
I mean, I agree with that. That's a really interesting point because the feedback you want is not the good stuff. I mean, it's nice to have. What you want to know is not what's not working, don't you? That's the stuff that you really
But
want.
both, right? You also need to highlight, people also need to know that you see also what they're doing really
Yeah,
well.
no, I'm not. But the in terms of the product design or product development or systems, you need to know what's not working. The stuff that's working is great. It's the stuff that's not working, I always think that is. because you've got to fix those things.
Yeah.
But let me just ask you about how do you make sure that happens then? I mean, is that something, do you have a way of making sure that happens? I mean, how have you built a culture that, because most people struggle with feedback.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, some of it is just getting people that are already used of that. And then secondly, it's for example, when we got a new student support, right? I would from the get-go say, this is very important, and I would introduce the framework, how to give feedback, right? Because it's a skill. It's a skill that you need to learn. It's a skill of understanding, and I also spend some time really understanding the personality of the person and also how they like to receive feedback, right? So we've also talked about, do you want to have one-on-one? Do you want that I send you like feedback after a meeting? How do you want to receive it? And then kind of coming back. That's not, don't take this personally, right? I'm telling you this. I mean, you don't need to say it, but I think it really needs to come from a good place, right? That you want this person to be better, right? And I think if you really believe that, the other person really understands this is actually good for me. But there is a little bit of it's a short period when people need to get used of this, right? Especially if they were never part of this type of culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Is helping people adjust really. And when you look back, what would you say are the big things that you've learnt? I mean, have you changed as a result of building this business? I mean, are you different now to when you started? I mean, what are the big learning points for you personally?
Oh wow. I mean, for me, the biggest one was now I'm in control, right? Which means there is much more responsibility on me. There is no one, I can't blame others that I didn't spend enough time with my daughter or that we haven't done this feature or that feature. It's really on me. So it's a lot. The biggest learning is really spending time and reflection every week on what are priorities for this week, learning have I put too many priorities, right? And improving next week, and having very clear non-negotiables, right? Or very clear boundaries when it comes to work and life balance.
Yeah. And if you were to go back to the beginning, is there any one thing that you would do completely differently on the given that you know what you know now?
I I think in terms of product, as I said, I wish we would actually set the launch date earlier. Just that would push us, I think, to prioritize more ruthlessly. And then would I do anything differently? I think there is definitely lots of learnings on marketing and getting the word out. Um, I would definitely love to get more support on that side earlier
Mm. Yeah.
because it takes time and effort.
Yeah, you're building a brand, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
you're trying to insert yourself into people's brains,
Yes,
which is
yes.
always takes a bit of time.
Content creations for me is very natural, but when it comes to marketing and being very kind of optimizing those decisions and the content, that's a true art that we
Yeah.
definitely we I think we need additional support to get the word out.
Yeah. And one last thing. Have you received any great advice? Are there any things that somebody said to you that has changed the way you've approached things? I mean, have you had great advice? I mean, do you have a mentor that works with you? I mean, have you had stuff that has changed the way you approach things?
Well, yes, I surrounded myself with amazing mentors and I connect with them regularly because I just getting an extra pair of eyes that is not on daily basis involved on it. It just gives you another perspective and helps you prioritize. A great advice, there's so many. But one that I would highlight would be um, I think it's the fact that we are brand, it's a marathon, right? And it's not, in our case, it's not just about selling products, but it's about establishing ourselves as authority on quality.
Mm.
And that means building trust. And building trust has never taken a week, right?
Right.
So I think the advice was really to refocus on this kind of this the slow trust building while still, having being able to kind of sustain a healthy cash flow. I think that was very important.
Yeah, quite tricky things to balance, I would have thought. And when you say building trust, I mean, what sort of things do you do? Because it's one thing to say we're gonna work to build trust. I mean, what practical things do you do to do that? I mean, just
Yeah.
explain that.
So I think now when we launched, everything was very focused on buy, buy this, right? And I
Yeah,
think it's coming back to where we started, which is creating much more content that is useful for people, that helps them make more thoughtful decisions, that helps them
yeah.
recognize
So things
quality.
like you mean things like the stories on your website, which I thought were fascinating.
Yes, yes. It's sharing more of this. It's sharing stories, but it's also sharing knowledge from the makers. Because this is the knowledge that is you won't find on ChatGPT because it's not captured yet.
Yeah,
It's a true white space. So it's capturing that knowledge and sharing it.
yeah, yeah. Kristi, thank you. I mean, a fascinating journey, a brilliant business, and I really like the idea of, building stuff that will last and that you can pass on to the next generation. I mean, it seems to me to be eminently sensible, that really. So, I mean, good luck going forward. And I mean, thank you for taking a bit of time to share that story. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating.
Thank you very much.
All right, see you soon. Bye bye.